Hello everyone. We are going to see how to deploy a Hello World solidity contract onto a Ganache server. Seems the Hello World is the very famous program. That saga continues in the Ethereum program chains also. This is the first series. We we are planning to give the training on how we can deploy the solidity contract onto a Ganache server. Ganache is a local Ethereum server. So the agenda here is we are going to create a folder. I'm going to list out the detailed steps so that when you when you follow the video, it would be very easy for you to understand, so that you can recreate the same exercise that has been done over here as a startup. So first one, we are going to create a folder on C drive. This is Ethereum. Second, we are going to open the workspace in Visual Studio Code and add this folder, and we are going to open a terminal in Visual Studio. Fourth one is we are going to initiate the command Truffle Init, where we are going to configure the Truffle Init and associated folder. We are going to talk about that. Then once the Truffle Init is completed, we are going to observe the folders in the Visual Studio Code, and after that we are going to create a sample contract and create a JavaScript for migration. So sample contract here, it's all about hello world. That's what we are going to do, and compile using the truffle command. Truffle compile, truffle build, and then truffle migrate and truffle deploy. All these commands we are going to try within the Visual Studio Code itself. Initiate the truffle migrate command to create the JSON for deployment. This is very important. When we create the truffle migrate, then only the JSON file that is associated with the contract is getting created, that gets deployed at the Ganache server. Add the truffle config to the Ganache server, then only we will be able to deploy and view what are the transactions that it has been done on that. Then open the JSON created and explore the contacts, deploy the contract, observe the contract in the Ganache server. That's the overview of what we are going to cover today. This course requires some of the prerequisites, that is, you have to install the node.js, then Visual Studio Code, that to be installed, Truffle for Visual Studio Code extension to be installed, Solidity for Visual Code extension has to be installed, and Ganache server. This is the local Ethereum. These are the basic setup that needs to be done before continuing this exercise. Assuming that we do have all these basics infrastructure and setup, and we are going to continue what the exercise we are going to do. So the overview of the video, what we are going to do here is, we have a Visual Studio Code editor is there. Within that we have installed Solidity VS Code plugin, also the Truffle for VS Code plugin. So through this Truffle for VS Code, we are going to communicate with the Ganache local server. So that's where our Ethereum contracts are going to be deployed. This is the high level overview, and I'm going to move on to the folder creation. Now we need to create a Ethereum folder. So in the Visual Studio, let me go to the Visual Studio. So in the Visual Studio, I already created the C colon Ethereum. In C drive, Ethereum folder is created. So we are going to open a folder. Let me open it up. It takes some time. And onto the C drive. Let's select the Ethereum folder. Select it. So this is going to open the kind of folder view. Yeah, this is what it is. The folder associated with the folder, there will be a terminal also will be initiated by default. If the terminal command is not available, then what we have to do is, like, we are going to initiate a new terminal, and this is going to create a new terminal here, and the command prompt will be instantiated here. That's fine. Let's move on to the So now we have done the folder creation and then Ethereum and then new terminal, and then we created it. It's a very basic step, but for those who wanted to do some of the uh, you know play around, this would be helpful. That's why we are listing it over here. And after this, let me close this folder, that's not required. After this, what we are going to do is, like, we are going to initiate the truffle init command, and that is going to set up all these folders within this Ethereum folder. A contract it will create, and then migration folder it will create, test folder it will create, and then truffle.config.js that will be created. And once the truffle initiate that command is there, you will see the output something similar to this. And then in the folder we can see 3 folders will be created under Ethereum, 3 folders, and the truffle config also will be created. Let's do that now. Truffle init. So I'm going to initialize the truffle within the Ethereum. Let's give some time. This will create somewhere around 3 folders. Yeah, that's it. So as you have seen it, so this is starting, initiation is completed, and then it has created 3 folders: contracts, migrations, test, and truffle config. So what we are going to do is, like, we are going to open the truffle-config.js and then see where these development servers are listed out. There could be a possibility that the code should be commented initially when you create the truffle init command, and we have to remove that so that the server could identify the the truffle can identify the server. The server is Ganache server is installed in your local machine 127.0.0.1. Port we need to change it because Ganache server is running on 7545. Network ID we can leave it as it is. Let's go to the Visual Studio Code and look for the networks. There you go. I'm going to remove the development. These are, I'm going to uncomment all these section, which is very important. There you go. Also, I'm going to change the port to 7585 because that is the port the Ganache server is installed. Now to take this effort, I need to force close this window so that it gets saved, and it is closed. Let me reopen it again. Yep, perfect. Now let's go to the next exercise. So we need to start a Ganache server. When you start the Ganache server on your uh, command prompt, you can see all this information where inside the Ganache server you will have some 10 blockchain accounts will get created, and each account will have a private key. These we will talk in later videos, not now. And what is the valid associated valid mnemonic will be there. There are the 12 phrase mnemonic will be there. And after that, what is the default gas price, what is the block gas limit, what is the call gas limit, what is the chain ID, and where the server is getting listened, all those information will be there. That's the Ganache. But what we are going to do now, we will open the Ganache GUI. Let's go to the settings. After the switch, you can see the settings here. There is no project is associated with this workspace, so let me add a project. Essentially, when you add a project, it's all about go to the C folder Ethereum and then create the truffle.config and then open it, and that you are going to save and restart. Yeah, it is done. If you see it over here, there is no contracts that are associated with that get deployed onto the Ganache server. So now we'll go back to the Visual Studio. Now we are about to add contracts over here. solidity contract, and it's basically we are going to do this hello world, the standard one. I'm going to do the hello world here. Let me copy the code. Let me copy this code. And then I'm going to create I'm going to create just hold on, contracts, new file, hello world.solidity. Now we are going to paste the code. So pragma is a directory where which version of the solidity that we are using it here. We are using it 8.13, but the compiler version that I do have in my system is 8.17. And then contract, after that you should have a hello world, and that is how the contract is getting instantiated or initiated within the solidity program. Within that, it's something like in your C++ or Java, the main gate, where after that the program starts, and then it starts with the open parenthesis and then closing parenthesis. Then you will have a string public greet, then I assigned as a hello world. That's it. So this one is created, so we have created it for a ensuring purpose. Let's close this folder and save it so that our solidity program is saved in the backend. Let me reopen it again. Now what I'm going to do, we have created the contract and we need to compile it actually. So we have to use a truffle compile, and then we need to compile this. Let me go back to my truffle compile. I'm initiating the truffle compile. Let's see whether the compilation is successful or any errors that we are encountering in our compilation. It's in progress. It will take some time. Yeah, it's compiling the contracts, and we have only one contract over here, not multiple contracts. Yep, successfully it is completed. The hello world is successfully compiled over here. Now we have done the compilation, but we have to tell the solidity, I'm sorry, truffle, how to migrate. So that is, we need to create a JavaScript file. Then only we will be able to migrate this hello world solidity program onto the Ganache server. That we will see it later. Now what we are going to create is that it's a simple JavaScript file that we are going to create it. Let's create a new file here in under migrations. It's going to be one underscore this is going to be one underscore hello world.js, and the code I'm going to copy it from here. This is the so now when we let me close it and open so that it gets saved automatically, and then reopen it again. Yeah, now it gets saved. So this tells Truffle where to look for within the folder the hello world program, and then it can migrate. So now I'm going to run the truffle migrate. When I run the truffle migrate, so what will happen, by default there will be a JSON file that gets built over here, that we are going to see that is what will finally get onto the Ganache server once we deploy the code. So I'm going to initiate the truffle migrate. So what I'm going to do is, like we did the truffle compile and then truffle migrate and truffle test and truffle deploy. These are the 4 steps that we are going to do. Let's run the truffle migrate. This will create a JSON file object within the build folder, and that is what going to be get deployed onto the Ganache server, and that will have I would say the bytecode and the JSON file that we can query onto the blockchain that we are going to deploy onto the Ganache Ethereum server. So all those things will be there. Let me refresh it. Yeah, exactly as I told, it got created. This is the HelloWorld.JSON, and this file is what we are going to deploy onto the Ganache server. So let's look at what it has. You have a contract name and ABI that talks about input, output, and all those details. That it will have a lot of metadata. It will have a lot of details, but I'm not going to cover everything in depth and detail here. Maybe in a later some other video we're going to cover it. So it we have compiled it, right? When we compiled it, there is a bytecode also will be created. That bytecode is actually sitting over here. The and then what is the what is the code that needs to be deployed, that is also getting over here. And what are all the associated network method and network type and various other parameters that got associated here in the hello world.json. So this is all about the file that we created. But even now what will happen, if you see here, when we do the migration, I believe along with the migration the deployment also happened. So it actually got deployed actually. So when it got deployed initially, when we look into the folder, there is nothing. Now we do have a hello world that got deployed over here, and this is the address. Let's see the events and transaction. This is the string that got stored over here, and if you see the transaction, let's get under the blocks. I do have a 10 all the Ganache server will have 10 accounts that will be created along with that, and each account will have multiple blocks. So far we are only using on the first account. Within the first account, there is a lag in my system. So there are 15 transactions that is been used, and one of them is the latest one. Let's get into the transaction. The contract creation that is done recently, and this is mined in the block number 15. That's what it is shown over here. So in the log, what happened, we do have our transaction. This transaction ID is listed over here. This is the transaction that got created and associated with the my, you know which block it is created, and all the other information has been shown over here. So with this we have completed one of the first exercise for how you can use the Ganache. Let me recap it over here what we have done so far, so that it will be easy for you to understand. As I told earlier, it's an overview of the video where you have the solidity VS code and truffle VS code plugin. Oh sorry, I didn't show it, but let me show where it is. So ideally when you go for extension, you search for truffle for VS Code. This is already installed. Also, we need to install Solidity and Juan Blanco. This is one of the famous author on the Solidity plugin, and these two plugins are mandatory that we need to install. Then only we will be able to work on the file structure that we have completed. With that, we complete the uh, uh, overview. I appreciate your time and thank you for watching. Please share your comments. Thank you.